Hello, welcome to another episode of Mega Manga Monday. I am Jason Hahn, and today we're talking about Chainsaw Man, chapter 106. It's a very exciting week for Chainsaw Man. The anime just started up, and the new chapter was fantastic, lots to talk about. But again, I am Jason Hahn, writer for ScreenRant.com. I happen to write a lot of video game related stuff, but I'm a huge manga fan, so we decided to start Mega Manga Mondays to talk about the series we love and their new chapters. And this new chapter has a lot to love, and very excited to talk about it. And I could rant a little bit by myself, but that wouldn't be as fun. I got a couple buddies with me. Ben, you want to introduce yourself, man?
Yeah, I'm Ben. I write for the comics section and the anime and manga section of Screen Rant. And I'm a big Chainsaw Man fan, so I'm really excited to discuss the new chapter because things seem to be heating up, pun intended.
Well, yeah, especially with the cliffhanger we had the last chapter, just it kind of shifted everything and it's moving everything into moving all the pieces into place, and oh, it's exciting. But yeah, we also have a new guest with us today. Stefan, how are you, man?
Hi, I'm good, everyone. You can call me Steve for short. That's what I go by.
Cool.
So I'm also a comics and anime writer for Screen Rant. I was not an original fan of Chainsaw Man. When it was announced they were doing an anime, I had a buddy who was really into it, and he said, "You need to read this and catch up." So now I'm all caught up. Enjoyed the series so far. Seems like accurate adaptation, and I'm excited today to talk about Chapter 106.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually, it's been a pretty busy week, so I was able to finally watch the episode this morning, and I thought it was perfect. It was a very, like, of course the animation was awesome. The 3D stuff didn't really bug me too much, but the just my favorite bit was definitely the zombie dog pile and just the sound design of just hearing the chainsaw revving up. And I'm a big sucker for when the music and the sound effects and everything just line up perfectly, and that was a very satisfying moment. But yeah, I'm pretty excited for more anime. But this isn't the anime podcast. This is the Mega Manga Mondays podcast, so we'll dive into this new chapter. Yuko kind of revealed herself as making a contract with the Justice Devil the last chapter, which flips everything. I mean, she was like the pure friend that Mitaka / the War Devil were bonding with. They were helping her out, and then this just kind of puts that conflict forefront. And it was a pretty intense chapter here. Especially with the cliffhanger of the last one. Me and Steven had talked about the last chapter, and it's just the last words of like, "Don't come to school tomorrow." It's just really twisted, and it's a very uncomfortable subject material here in America,
Right.
with that kind of thing. And this chapter luckily didn't just jump into really demented brutality, which I think is something that the creator of Chainsaw Man like balances really well. Like, of course, messed up things happen, but it's not like a gut, or well, there's definitely a few moments power related that are gut punches for me personally, but it doesn't normally go as twisted as it could possibly go.
Yeah. I think they handled that very tactfully because there's a lot of ways to go with that, and that's a big cliffhanger to drop, especially with current climate, especially over here in the States. But I think they handled it very well, and they're kind of doing like a little bit of an anti-hero thing. Which devil do I want to root for? In this upcoming fight, you're making me choose between two things who are objectively bad. But obviously, I don't think don't want to talk too much about the next chapter, but I don't think the Justice Devil is going to make it too far, seeing how this is the War Devil arc,
Right.
and this is building up to something much bigger. But I think they're setting the stage for an exciting next chapter.
Well, absolutely. It's just
Yeah.
the devil's representing each of these huge things, and it's just the profoundness, that the concept that justice is trying to subdue war. It's got so many layers, and I love how Fujimoto makes that all work. But yeah, what were your
Yeah,
thoughts,
and
Ben?
it's funny too because like normally you think, oh, justice is good, right, and war is bad, but here we're kind of rooting for the opposite because justice here is interpreted as, oh, we'll just kill everyone who is doing bad things, regardless of the degree of badness. Uh, and so here, war is actually one we're rooting for, not just because she's the protagonist, but also because, justice has a very twisted sense of justice.
Yeah, it's a very like corrupted form of justice, and it's wild to see, especially at the end of the chapter. We got to see what this devil form looks like, and it looked a lot like there's this PlayStation 5 game called Returnal where you're like stuck on an alien planet and everything's really like twisted looking and really really standout art design, and I loved the look of it. But that might be jumping ahead in the conversation a little bit there, but I really liked how we kind of started out with the War Devil and Mitaka descending into this like dark alleyway, and I thought it kind of lined up really nicely with the first episode of the anime. Starting out with like Denji's dream of him descending into the dark alleyway and encountering that door. I wasn't expecting them to like encounter a door or anything like that, but I just thought some of those panels of like the dark alleyway gave me those sort of vibes. So I was kind of wondering what Fujimoto's or if he's doing that on purpose. I'm sure he is, but and that's kind of the conversation that Mitaka and War Devil are having, is they're kind of descending into the really bad decisions. Up until now they've just been kind of surviving, and now it's even Mitaka is just like, was this my fault? Is everything that's about to happen my fault? And she's just like, well, yeah, it totally is. She's just not comforting her at all.
I'm just gonna say it's an interesting juxtaposition between these big, heady ideas of war and justice intermingled with like petty little schoolgirl drama, like and it takes you back to like being a high school kid and like the most trivial things, and then you have these embodiments of these ideas, with a high school overlay, and then kind of talking about you alluded to the similarities between episode 1. There are a lot of parallels, not only in this chapter, but going back a few chapters to sort of the beginning of Chainsaw Man, like this reluctant protagonist hero character who, doesn't really want anything to do with, being a hero who's kind of grown into that role. And I think we might be echoing those steps with a character with a little bit of a different moral compass, not completely good, definitely skews more evil, but maybe there's some redemption to be found here.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's something that they've done a really good job of just building up Mitaka's character. I mean, she has been going through a very similar journey that Denji went through, especially with him just being like, you know what, I think I do want to live. I want to have a life now. And the series began with her being depressed and feeling awkward, and she's been slowly kind of finding her way in that confidence. And funny you bring up the whole like schoolgirl squabbles and stuff like that. That was actually one of my favorite bits in the last I think it was 105, where after Denji stupidly reveals himself as Chainsaw Man, and even Mitaka's just like, he's not that stupid. There's no way Chainsaw Man would do that. And then you get to watch War Devil have like a temper tantrum in the middle of this, like on the stairs, just like, did you just call me stupid? I am not stupid. I am not stupid. And you're like, wow, this War Devil is throwing a schoolgirl temper tantrum in the middle of the hallway. This is not exactly how I'd expect a War Devil to act.
And I think it's important to note on the topic of the War Devil that, in this final confrontation that we see in the chapter, that's not Mitaka, that's Yoru, right? Mm-hmm. That's the War Devil in Mitaka's body. So I'm very curious to see if Mitaka will surface at all during the fight that's coming, or if it'll just be the War Devil taking out Yuko.
Oh man, great segue actually, because that goes into one of my notes. It kind of goes into the conversation though, jumping ahead a little bit of Yuko being at the school, and we'll get into that a little bit or a little bit later, but yeah, the War Devil essentially putting her foot down and being like, yeah, you know what, your body belongs to me, and I'm gonna keep control of it until we kill her tomorrow. So either she needs to get, well, actually, I don't know if she's even, because it's been established that she gets afraid and that she can't control her body anymore. But now that she's already switched to War Devil, we don't know if that's going to be able to play into it. But we get to see Yuko kind of, I guess, burning some bodies and getting ready to pretty much prepare herself for the next day. And I thought it was an interesting thing how she was wanting to kill all the bad guys just like Chainsaw Man. And it's like, well, Yuko is a Chainsaw Man fan, I suppose, but I mean, she knows like the whole truth, or at least we think she does, about Yoru wanting to kill Chainsaw Man and all this stuff. So she's kind of almost like blinded to help her friend here. And that's why the next conversation they have when she confronts her at the school, really interesting. Like she's saying, oh, you can fight me and you can go ahead and kill me, but it'd kill Asa too. And she's just like, okay, well, I hate you so much, I'm going to go ahead and transform and do this. But in that conversation, she reveals that she can read her every move. She can like read her mind. And so that kind of gave me the idea, and I was like, it'll be really heartbreaking too for Asa if War Devil is fighting, and to counteract the mind reading ability, if she on purpose like snaps back to Asa in the middle of the fight. So Asa is like just getting glimpses of like her friend getting brutally murdered by War Devil. But then that might make her afraid, and then War Devil wouldn't be able to take control of her. But that was kind of one way I thought of them counteracting the mind reading thing is, you've got multiple personalities. If you're switching between both of them, it's going to be hard to read.
Yeah, well, it's unclear exactly how Yuko's ability works. So I think we're probably going to get a little bit more of that in the next fight.
Mm-hmm.
But it might not be a simple like, oh, I can read your mind. It might be like, if you're doing something unjust, then Yuko knows about it.
Ooh, yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah, because that's kind of a, not to jump to overpowered, but that's, quite the powerful ability just to read anyone's mind. So I'm sure they're going to tie it back to the Justice Devil somehow. And I'm looking at the last chapter here. I don't really know if it's clear that this Justice Devil has eyes. I don't know if they're going with a justice is blind sort of thing there.
Great observation.
Yeah, but it's only one panel, and she's kind of sitting far back. So I'm sure we're gonna get that next chapter. But that would be kind of an interesting take on maybe she can't see. But she's kind of, looking into your mind to predict your next move, something like that. So
absolutely. Well, that's something too that I'm really excited for. I'm wondering when we'll finally get to see War Devil and Asa's like full transformation, or even if we will get that. But it's kind of one of those things too where as soon as like Denji shows up, I wonder if War Devil will just be able to turn Yuko and Justice Devil into a brutal weapon, especially because their bond is so strong. We've only seen her turn the principal into a spine sword, which was awesome as hell. But their relationship was was weird at best, especially with it being revealed that the principal had a thing for Mitaka. And so she technically he was hers, judging by the War Devil's powers. She's just like, yeah, anybody who like falls for me, I control them. I have their power. I can turn them into a weapon. And the stronger that bond, the more powerful the weapon's gonna be. So as soon as that was dropped, I was like, oh man, we're gonna be seeing Yuko die, and it's gonna be some brutal, cool weapon against Chainsaw Man and Denji, and then for a little bit, I was just like, oh, maybe Yuko's gonna be okay because she got saved. And then that last chapter happened, and I'm like, oh, yep, all right, well, this is still happening, I suppose. But yeah, what were some other things about this chapter that really stood out for you guys?
As always, the art is
Oh yeah.
is great. Every panel, even if they're just sometimes 2, 3, 4 panels, the message comes across. You don't need it's not very text heavy all the time, which I appreciate, and the drawings will do you justice. The last 2 pages are almost completely blank when Yuko is transforming. Art always good. The shot of her burning the bodies is just like super creepy.
Yeah. Yeah, it was actually something we were really enjoying in the last chapter too, where it was mostly just, 2 girls sitting down and having a conversation. Just Fujimoto's ability to frame everything and just his shading, it's so well done dramatically.
Yes.
And it's one of those things where like he's a very outward movie fanatic, and even in the anime's intro, there's just so many
all the references.
It was lovely, and it's one of those things. Just like, man, I would love to give Fujimoto a camera, and see what he could do with it. But then again, with manga, he's able to control everything that's in front of the camera, and that's something that more movies can't do unless you have a huge budget. So, but
well,
translates really well here.
We do know what he'd do with a camera. He'd try to levitate and fail. But I love the, speaking of controlling everything on the page, I love a panel from this chapter that I think is really cool, is when Yuko is talking and it's contained in the windows, right? Yeah. It's like inside. It doesn't leave the building. And it's such a subtle touch. It doesn't really add anything like thematically or anything like that. Although I guess you could read into it and draw some conclusions or whatever, but it's just a neat little thing that Fujimoto's doing. So he's continuing to experiment with the form. It's always fun to see.
Yeah, and I mean that's something that I definitely have never seen before. Like the dialogue bubbles are in the frame and like literally within the windows, and even kind of blocked by the windows a little bit too. So I mean, it's other than just looking kind of cool and being an interesting thing, I feel like it's just such a dramatic shift from normal like manga formatting that there's got to be some bigger reason for it. And it's like, judging from that panel up there, it's just you're getting closer and closer and closer to Yuko. And maybe just judging from the dialogue too, the first bit she does say that is kind of blocked by the window is just heard like, oh yeah, it's so cool, blah, this is awesome. And then the closer and closer you get to her, the more profound she's delivering those lines. Like at first just starts with, isn't it cool that Chainsaw Man goes to this school? And then the next bit is, but he's not stopping bullies. Oh yeah, that's kind of a bummer. Move aside, I'm going to kill bullies. And it's just like, oh, that is a huge progression all on one page. Like, I think it just starts off with the small talk, and which is not as important. So that's why that dialogue is blocked and more mysterious. And it's just a brilliant way of this paneling. And again, with that last chapter too, when Yuko like reveals that she murdered her neighbor, it just keeps on cutting back and forth to like her reaction to Asa's reaction and back and forth, and I can't get enough of it. The art and the paneling is just so fantastic. It's fun.
Did either of you ever read Just Listen to the Song, which was like a one shot that Fujimoto did before starting Chainsaw Man Part 2?
Which one shot?
It's the shorter one shot. It's the one he did right before Chainsaw Man Part 2 started. And it was about a guy putting a video online. And it was just like a simple like song that was kind of cringy. But then everyone started noticing all these random things in it and interpreting and extrapolating it in different ways.
I forgot about that one. Because I know he did those two lengthy one shots. One I read that I loved.
Look Back and then Goodbye Airy.
Yeah, I haven't read Goodbye Airy yet, but yeah, I forgot about the third one. Do you remember what that's called?
Yeah, it's Just Listen to the Song. It was just a very short thing, and it was very clear that like the reason he was doing it was because the message of the piece was like, don't read too heavily into this stuff. I may have the gun devil, but not everything related to it is about like gun control and stuff like that. And I wanted to bring this up because he specifically called out the gun control thing.
Yeah.
In Just Listen to the Song.
Okay.
And I think that there is sort of like the trap of reading this as an American and interpreting it as being related to a lot of American issues that are heavily in our mind. But Fujimoto is just he's doing his own thing. So he might have some overall message about that, but generally it might not be as deep as we interpret it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a good thing to keep in mind going forward here. But also I think it applies to things like, it's cool sort of like paneling stuff. He might just be doing it because he likes it.
Right.
And just like this is just because I like doing it,
Right. It's not always a profound message. Sometimes it's just, I thought it was cool.
Yeah. I can definitely see why he released it before this section. If he had this sort of thing in mind.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's, it's just, it depends where you grew up, and it depends with your circumstances, how you're going to read and perceive something. And, I mean, he hasn't grown up in the States, and Japan has, their whole own share of problems over the generations too. So, I mean, it's one of those things that I think he did just, write it to write it. I don't think he was trying to say, make a commentary on America's violence issues and stuff like that. But I'm glad that he at least like brought it up. I need to check that out.
Yeah, it's very short and very fun. So I definitely recommend looking at it. But also, it's sort of like a curtains are blue moment where it's like, why did the author say the curtains are blue? Because it's, depressing. And the author's like, no, I just wanted the curtains to be blue. But at the same time, like, if the author had made the curtains red, it would have given the scene a different tone. So, like, these choices do add up to something that it can be meaningful, even if the author isn't really, like, intending a full thing. So there are multiple facets to it.
Oh, absolutely.
Well,
yeah.
I think we can
he's
death of the author.
Yeah, he's definitely revealed how the depth of his talents and his storytelling ability. But another thing I really liked about this chapter too, Yuko just like casually saying, "Oh, good morning, Ohio," like to all these people as she's walking to school to do. I mean, at this point, the last bit we knew was she's telling, Mitaka, don't go to school tomorrow, and then her burning the bodies. It's just all dark and demented. And then you turn the page and it's, "Oh, good morning, ma'am. Oh boy, I'm going to be a little bit late." And you're just like, oh, Yuko is, she's got a good heart, but it's just her she just we weren't 100% sure if this is all the Justice Devil like pushing the worst thoughts that she could have, just casually murdering a bunch of bullies and her neighbor that her annoyed her a little bit. And it just really, really exactly what you're going into, just the depth of Fujimoto's writing here. So yeah, I guess we can start moving into what we hope will happen next. I kind of revealed how I think that War Devil and Asa could possibly counter the ability to, read their every move. But yeah, I'm almost wondering. I would love to see Yoshida show up, and I would love to see him fight because that's been teased several times. But I almost kind of how we saw the last time before Chainsaw Man entered the fray. We're like, man, it would be great if Denji showed up, but we almost rather it be Yoshida because we want Denji to show up later because we're so invested in Mitaka's storyline. And I'm glad that we haven't 100% shifted over to Denji, and we're still sticking with Mitaka here. But yeah, I'm wondering how drawn out this fight is going to get. But it's one of those things, too, about the Justice Devil. I'm not sure if the Justice Devil has clearly said, like, oh, somebody's been bullying you? Okay, I'll murder them. Or this person annoyed me. I murdered them. But those people have done something wrong, according to the Justice Devil. So I'm almost thinking the Justice Devil might be a little bit more careful in just murdering innocent people, like people that haven't bothered the Justice Devil specifically. So I don't know if they're just gonna, be okay with blowing up an entire building or smashing through a wall filled with a bunch of people. I'm not sure.
Well, it's interesting because like we've seen the Justice Devil in the series before when it made a contract with that bully in Yuko's class, and that version of the Justice Devil seemed fine. Just like, yeah, I tripped you to kill Bucky. It was funny, and now I'm gonna kill you. Like, it's like how much of this is the Justice Devil and how much of it is the person that makes the contract with the Justice Devil. Like, and what are the differences in what they're willing to do? I guess we'll see that coming up.
Yeah, I mean, what even is justice to two people? It's completely different thing. Depending on what side you're on, and in this situation, killing everyone in the school could be justice because they at some point in their lives might have done something wrong. But to someone else, they're innocent kids, and that would be wrong to hurt them at all. So I think it'll get into a little bit of the, like, I think it'll be a more personal conflict instead of, an all-out big giant brawl. But, these, I don't, the universe of Chainsaw Man must have good insurance because there's always a lot of buildings getting blown up, and they usually end up going from one place to another, and these big citywide fights. And we talked about earlier with the weakness of being scared, and coming back into control from the War Devil. I'm wondering to see if that'll play out because usually they don't tease something like that if they don't intend to use it later. So that's a back pocket thing. Might not see it played out over the next chapter, but that's definitely something to keep in mind. But I'm excited to see more of the Justice Devil. I think the character design is gorgeous. Every devil is designed so differently, and that's something you could really appreciate about this show. It's not just copy and paste monsters. It's like everyone is unique. All their powers feel different from one another. So I'm excited to see some more full spread shots of this thing.
Absolutely. And I'm wondering, I brought it up earlier, I'm wondering if it'll, trigger some new devil form for War Devil, because I'm anxious to see more of those sorts of designs, and especially with Fujimoto teasing this Justice Devil, like it looks like a twisted demonic angel almost. Like I don't know. I love it. Just the creepy square brain on top of it, and yeah, the whole it not having eyes thing wasn't something I picked up on until you said it. I'm like, that's so. It just the more I think about it, the more brilliant this is. I love it. But yeah, it's just it being a more personal thing. Almost feels like what it's kind of what we want, but with what War Devil wants, she wants this to be as big and dumb as possible. So then hopefully it attracts Denji or Chainsaw Man, because they still don't really think it's Denji. I guess I think Mitaka kind of drove that home for the War Devil by making her feel stupid, or kind of making fun of her for it. So we really need to see pretty much Denji turning into Chainsaw Man in front of War Devil for them to fully being like, oh crap, he is really Chainsaw Man. Oh man, he is Chainsaw Man. What an idiot. But yeah, just really excited to see what happens next in 107. I know the chapters have been coming out every 2 weeks, but the Shonen Jump app was telling me that we only have to wait 1 week for a new chapter. So,
oh really? I didn't
yeah.
notice that.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a glitch on their part, or if we only need to wait a week now, which is pretty exciting.
Interesting.
So yeah, maybe they'll be coming out with a couple chapters, more frequently with the hype of the anime. But
Yeah, and this was kind of like a shorter chapter, or at least on the shorter end, I think.
yeah, it did feel like it. I think especially just because the last chapter had so many panels to it, and so much like heavy dialogue, that it just felt like it went very quickly, or it felt like it was a very substantial chapter, and this one just felt a lot quicker for sure. So yeah, incredibly excited. But yeah, any other thoughts on Chainsaw Man 106, guys?
I have an update. I looked up the manga release. It is back to weekly because of the anime.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Set to be released Wednesday, October 19th. And then after many week-long delays, the manga is back on a weekly basis for now, which is very exciting. So
Awesome. Well,
That's awesome.
yeah, look forward to Mega Manga Monday podcast for Chainsaw Man every week now, because we'll definitely be excited to talk about it. Compared to some other series we talk about, Fujimoto has been really good about packing each chapter with a lot to talk about. So very excited to keep this conversation going. But yeah, that's about everything I had on Chainsaw Man 106. Is there anything else you guys had on mind before we move into plugs and recommendations?
Yeah, I really want Yuko to become a talking weapon.
Yeah,
I think that would be fun. Also, looking at the last panel more and more, her head kind of looks like the hilt of a sword, kind of.
Oh man,
I don't know.
It'll be cool. Oh man, it'll be cool. The more I look at it, the more I love that design, and just want to see it do more. I want to see more of it for sure. That actually brings up a kind of something we had said in previous podcasts too, is the relationship between host and devil is just so varied in the series. Because at the very beginning of the series, of course, we were introduced to Pochita and the chainsaw, who is the chainsaw devil. And over time, the chainsaw devil eventually formed a bond with Denji, and they helped each other out. So it established that is a possibility. And that's something that hasn't been necessarily happening very quickly with Asa and the War Devil, or if it will happen at all. There's some series that have, successfully told the story of the host making friends with the devil inside of them. And then, of course, there's other series like Jujutsu Kaisen, where there is just no redeeming the devil inside of that person. And just very curious to see where this goes. The War Devil, especially in this chapter, definitely put their foot down. more than they have previously. But there's just been little tidbits here and there that their relationship could possibly develop, especially after Yuko gave them her shoes, and the War Devil is just like, well, should we go sell these? Like, what's going on? Like, there's just been a couple little warm moments that have added some levity to their dynamic, and this one definitely, I think, pushed it more into, War Devil being bad scenarios. So very interested to see how Mitaka fits into later Chainsaw Man, because just things just don't seem like they could possibly have a happy ending, where War Devil and Chainsaw Man coexist in the same story. So we'll see how it develops. I don't think that's going to get resolved next chapter, but loving part 2 so far, and yeah, we'll be here for chapter 107. But yeah, I think we'll go ahead and move into some plugs and recommendations. Yeah, thanks for listening to Chainsaw Man on Mega Manga Mondays. Please check out our previous discussions on the chapters if you haven't already. You can follow us on Twitter as well for updates on when new episodes are coming out and what chapters we hope to be covering. On our Twitter handle is at @mmangamondays. And we also have a website you can listen to all of our podcasts on, Mega Manga Mondays, all one word, .podbean.com. And I'll have all that in the description and stuff too. But I, Jason Hahn, also have a YouTube channel called Honzy and Friends. I like to stream on Wednesdays and Sundays. Recently beat the newest God of War game on PlayStation 5, getting ready for Ragnarok next month.
Oh, yeah.
Very exciting. Also, I've been playing some Overwatch 2 on the channel, and always looking for new friends to play with on that. So check that out on YouTube, Honzy and Friends. And Ben, how about you, man? Any plugs or recommendations today?
Yeah, well, recommendations. I know we mentioned it earlier, but I mean, it would be weird if we're on the Chainsaw Man podcast and I don't recommend checking out the Chainsaw Man anime.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really fun so far, and I've had the opening on repeat since I watched it. But yeah, and then in terms of personal plugs, I have a YouTube channel of my own called YGO from Zero, where I go over historical formats of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game. So if that's something that seems like it might interest you, be sure to check that out.
Yeah, absolutely. And how about you, Steve?
I would also recommend the Chainsaw Man anime, and Bleach, new anime, Thousand Year Blood War. Beautiful animation on both these shows. Very pretty. I'm also waiting for God of War Ragnarok. Just played through again recently. For if you want another podcast recommendation, and you like sports, check out Here for the Moments. That's a podcast I do with my friends. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, pretty much wherever you get your podcasts. We're on there. Those go up on Wednesdays, and I think that's it for me for today.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your time, both of you, and also Steve. It's your first time on Mega Manga Mondays, and it's been a lot of fun having you. Hope we'll have you on the next one.
Oh, for sure. Like I said, whenever it works out for my schedule, I'd love to be here. I love talking manga. I love getting into it with like-minded hosts. So I'm very excited for the next one.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a lot of fun, guys. Thanks for listening and your time, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
See ya.
See y'all next time.
Peace.